Everyone. And if that pattern sounds familiar, it should. The people who understand the system position themselves. Everyone else absorbs the impact. That pattern should sound familiar by now, but the reason it keeps repeating is structural. The reason that this keeps happening comes down to three structural realities that have not fundamentally changed since 1973. First, concentration of supply. A large share of global oil production comes from a small number of countries, many of which are geopolitically volatile or operate within coordinated groups like OPEC+. OPEC Plus controls roughly 40% of global output and an even larger share of reserves. That means supply decisions are often political. When production is cut or disrupted, the market cannot adjust quickly. The price just moves. Second, inelastic demand in the short run. This means the demand for a product does not react to the price changes. If oil prices double tomorrow, you cannot stop commuting next week. Airlines cannot ground fleets. Shipping companies cannot switch fuels overnight. Demand barely moves, which means the full impact passes directly through to consumers. No buffer. Third, the dollar connection. Oil is traded in US dollars, so price changes affect currencies, trade balances, and central bank decisions across the entire world at the same time. When oil rises, importing countries see deficits widen, currencies weaken, and policy tighten. Three features: concentration of supply, inelastic demand, dollar pricing. Together, they lock the global economy into dependence on something it cannot quickly replace. Not a conspiracy, just plumbing. And once you see the structure, you cannot unsee it. Which brings us to the part most people assume has already improved. At this point, it's reasonable to think things have improved. Renewables are growing, electric vehicles are scaling, diversification is happening. That is all true. The world is less oil intensive per unit of GDP than it was 50 years ago. Solar, wind, natural gas, and nuclear have reduced oil's dominance in power generation. These are real changes, but global oil consumption is still around 100 million barrels per day. Transportation still runs overwhelmingly on petroleum. Petrochemicals remain foundational to manufacturing. And the fastest growing economies are increasing their consumption as they industrialize. Demand isn't disappearing, it's shifting. We saw this clearly in 2022. Russia's invasion of Ukraine sent oil and gas prices surging. Europe scrambled for supply, inflation spiked. Central banks raised rates aggressively. A cost of living crisis followed. Same pattern, different decade. The transition is real, but it is slow, expensive, and politically complicated. And that gap between intention and reality is exactly where the next shock will emerge. Every time you see oil prices move sharply, you are not watching an energy story. You are watching the beginning of an inflation story, a monetary policy story, a trade balance story, and sometimes a recession story. The trade happens in a market most people never see. The consequences show up everywhere. The price of oil has never just been about oil. It has always been about everything else. And until the global economy can function without it, that will remain true. The shocks will keep coming. Now you know why. If that just changed how you think about oil, subscribe. Covering topics like this is what I do.